Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are looking at the book of the prophet Daniel. And we're in chapter 1, verses 1 through 21. Starts off, King Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadrezzar, depending on the author in the Old Testament. He has led his troops over from Babylon into the Palestinian plain, and they conquered everything they came upon, including Jerusalem. They knocked down the walls. They besieged it and conquered it, and then they carted off its wealth, but not just its silver and gold, but also its best and its brightest. There's a brain drain taking place, and part of that is Daniel and his three buddies. Now, the Babylonians are eager to get these guys to assimilate to Babylon, to fit in, and to forget their gods and really to accept the gods and the priorities of the Babylonian culture. And I want you to consider about how sometimes we are desperate to fit in and be accepted in our own society when we are Christians. We belong to another kingdom. We shouldn't be assimilated to this world and forget who is our God and what are our values. Now, one of the things they do is they change his name. And by changing his name, they're trying to change his character, who he is. Names are important. Part of that is, he deals with being called Belshazzar, but he finds another way to keep a definition of who he is and to not defile himself. Now, we think about the royal food and drink. It's probably kind of very rich and gluttonous, but our diet matters. And not just our food. What diet are you consuming on your TV, on the radio, or on your social media? Is it a diet of perhaps of fear and anger, or a diet of sexuality and pornography, or a diet of greed? What we take in, what we consume impacts us. And so often the question really is, do we trust God to make us happy? Or do we trust the world's wisdom, the world's desires, the world's priorities, that those are going to be better for us than what God has for us? Now, Daniel asked permission of those in charge whether he can change his diet. And I want you to consider that he asks permission. He is seeking the favor. And part of the way that Daniel doesn't defile himself is not being a jerk to those who think differently. But he's asking permission and setting himself up to have favor because he treats the others with respect. They grant the opportunity, and because Daniel and his three friends have been faithful in much, in little, they now are going to be faithful in much. They've been promoted, elevated, right? And that's a challenge for us as Christians, to be faithful in the small things, because then we create our character to be faithful in bigger things. Do you rely upon God? God asked you to do things. Do you push away from them, or are you faithful in them? Are we afraid that we won't thrive? Are we afraid that God won't take care of us? Daniel was living under some very challenging circumstances, and he trusted God. And that's the example for us to follow, is that God is true and that his word is true. Thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.